Hey Jabbers, we are back and today we have an exciting guest and we are going to be talking about how to clone your best clients and taking the guesswork out of your marketing and attracting more of those ideal clients, which we all love. But let me introduce our guest. Heidi Thompson is the best-selling author of Clone Your Best Clients and the wedding business coach and marketing strategist behind Evolve Your Wedding Business. She helps wedding professionals stop throwing everything at the wall and to build a focused, strategic marketing system that books ideal clients consistently without living on Instagram or working 60-hour weeks. Her business and marketing expertise has been featured on several wedding and business outlets and events including Wedding Business Magazine, Wedding Industry Insider, the Wedding Empires podcast, Wedding MBA, Aisle Planner, Honeybook, and Wedding Wire World. Very impressive. She is the creator and host of Book More Wedding Summit and Wedding Business CEO Summit. Since 2012, Heidi has helped thousands of wedding pros of all kinds across 6 continents grow their wedding businesses without working nonstop. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is fun because I remember you, Heidi, from probably maybe not 2012, but like early years. And if I remember correctly, your summit was like the first of its kind. Now there are several that exist out there, but is that right? Like you kind of, were you inspired by other summits that were happening and then you brought it to the wedding industry, or did you make this up?
I did not make this up. No, I learned from someone who figured out what worked. That's my favorite thing is like, teach me. You are my shortcut in another industry, and brought it to the wedding industry and have absolutely loved running it. It's been like a pillar of my business ever since.
It's brilliant. And for those that don't know what that is, it's really like there's a free ticket for most of the guests, right? And they get access to these speakers. Some of them are live and some of them are pre-recorded, but they're all very interesting niche wedding topics. And then if people want access to them after the 24 hours or 48-hour expiration time of the summit, then there's an a purchase point. Is that right?
Yeah. We do an all access pass, and we do another level that includes, more live events and bonuses. They usually paid products that speakers contribute that are normally paid. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's been such a great way to kind of bring more knowledge to the wedding industry. So thank you on behalf of all wedding pros for bringing that over.
Heidi, I'm curious, how did you get into weddings? Were you ever like planning or like doing a different service in the industry first?
So I was a planner once upon a time, and I got into event planning through nonprofit events. So there was like a marketing component to it. And I realized I really loved that marketing component. And I did plan weddings, but like I'm a very chill person. And when I have people that are like freaking out about what in my mind is not freak out worthy, I'm like, oh my God, I can't with people. So it was like, okay, this probably isn't going to be the best thing for me, but I saw an opportunity to, back in like 2011, start a wedding show that brought together couples who wanted something different. This is the beginning of like offbeat bride, rock and roll bride era, and vendors that were doing really cool creative things. And because I had a marketing background, I had worked in all sorts of different sectors in marketing, I wound up spending a bunch of my time helping those vendors get a good return on their investment. And it kind of just like hit me upside the head that like, oh, not everybody's just into this. Not everybody just enjoys this and learns about this. So it was a way to kind of bring my worlds together.
That's awesome. Okay, since you've been in it since 2011, 2012, and you've seen a lot of different types of marketing, what would you say for wedding vendors, maybe even more specifically wedding planners, since that's the majority of our audience, but what would you say is kind of the biggest lie that the industry is telling them about how to market themselves? And I guess, what are you still seeing people fall for in that?
The biggest, and I don't even know if this is told or if it's just absorbed, is that the idea is you just need to get yourself out there. You need to get in front of more people. You need to get visible. And I actually did a survey recently asking people, like, okay, what's your biggest problem you're struggling with marketing? What do you think you need to do to fix that? And like, it was insane. Like 90% of people, it was like visibility, post more on social media, basically do more of the things that aren't currently working. And it was just such an eye-opening moment of like, most people think they have this, I'm not getting out there enough, I don't have enough visibility problem. But the real problem is nobody sees you as the go-to person. Nobody sees you as any different to anybody else. Nobody sees why they should choose you instead of someone else. So the visibility part of it doesn't actually do anything because it's just more noise. It's more, okay, you're a wedding planner. Like, end of thought, you know?
Ooh, okay, that's interesting. So they're really just following, even if they get more visibility by showing up online, if their messaging is not about the niche they're in or the specific thing that makes them different, they're literally just getting swiped by because they're falling into the same pool of every other planner that's putting reels up there.
Yeah, and that's why they end up having to compete on price.
Yeah.
Is because you're in the same category. Whereas if you make yourself the go-to person for somebody, for your ideal client, you effectively create your own category. There are planners, and then there is the perfect planner for this particular kind of person or this particular kind of situation. And I think it's something that we think a lot about in marketing, but doesn't really happen a lot in the wedding industry. And I've been talking about it a lot because I want it to be more second nature for people, is like problem solution thinking. We think in the wedding industry, like, I'm a wedding planner, I'm selling wedding planning. And it's like, nobody wakes up and they're like, I want to buy wedding planning. You know,
Fair.
They wake up and they're like, oh, I have all this stuff I have to do. I'm really stressed out about this. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. Like, there are problems that they have. And if your marketing can present you as the solution, you instantly stand out because nobody is doing this.
So I guess for people who are like, I'm a planner and I don't know how to stand out from everybody else, you know, because I think sometimes people just get stuck in like thinking, why am I any different? But like, what do you suggest to people, like how to dive into finding what you're really good at and like speaking to that to be able to stand out from other planners in the industry?
The easiest way to do it is to get out of your own head, because you're never going to see yourself the way your best clients see you, the way that your prospective clients see you. It's just impossible. So that gets into the whole clone your best clients process. If we can go to your best clients, ask them some key questions and turn that into your messaging instead of the assumptions that we have. I have a great example of this. I had a planner I worked with. She was using the same old that every planner uses. I help you eliminate stress and make it easier and all these things, which are like basically listing a job description. Like, everyone says these things. There's nothing about it that
And
is
if you
helping
don't
you.
alleviate stress, that is a really big problem.
I make your life harder.
Yeah.
That's unique.
It is. So she went to her best clients. She went through this process. She asked them some questions. And what they told her was basically they didn't care about that. The thing they cared about was either both people in the couple were South Asian or one person was. And their biggest fear was their wedding being like their brother's wedding, their sister's wedding, their cousin's weddings. They've been to 1 million Indian weddings. They're all the same. They don't want that. They want to put their own spin on it. They want to bring their personality into it. And they loved that she was good at this. So this is something she's already doing that she did not even recognize that she was doing, because, you know, you just go about your life in the way that you do. You think everybody thinks like you. You don't think you're any different. But for her, that's why they were buying. That's why they were working with her, is she was able to create these events that were so different to one another, yet she was still pulling in the traditions that were really important and like giving them new life. And once she switched her marketing to being about that, these people started booking her like crazy, because she's solving the problem they actually want her to solve. She's no longer solving the problem of, I help you have a stress-free wedding. She's solving the problem of, hey, are you concerned that your Indian wedding is going to look like every other Indian wedding that you've been to? This is how we address that. This is our process for making sure that it's all about you and your partner. And here's what this looks like for this couple. And here's what this looks like for this couple. Like, that is compelling in your marketing, because it like reaches through the screen and really like grabs that person that you're talking to, and it gets them excited, because now, like I said, she's created her own category. It's no longer, I can compare her to other planners. It's, this person has the perfect solution to what I want, and these people are selling me less stress.
Kari, I feel like this is your brand.
Wait, the less stress or the
The unique South Asian weddings. Kari has a very niche market right now, or has over the last few years, of South Asian weddings, but you make them very non-traditional and like very LA. Like they're very LA Indian weddings. So I'm thinking, did you work with Heidi?
No, well, it's fine. I have done some like of your stuff before in the past, but I was just thinking of how I feel like I have a lot of like relieving stress and within my marketing. I'm like, I'm gonna take that out, because you're
And
right.
it's so
It's something
funny
that's
because,
just like everyone is saying, and I really don't feel like it helps clients, because they're like, yeah, no shit, I want to be less stressed during this process. Like, no, that's why I'm hiring you. But like, I just feel like it's, you said, it's so repetitive that it doesn't really mean anything to them. Because I think even if I can relieve stress from my clients, they're still stressed throughout the process.
Yeah.
And it's just something we can't relieve, because there's like family dynamics, stuff like that. Like, we can't change everything. But that is such a good point to like talk to your best clients about that.
But at what point do you talk? Sorry, Heidi, I just want to know, like, at what point are you talking to the clients? Is it right after you booked them and you're like, so why did you hire me? Or is it in an offboarding call type situation?
it could be at any point. And I have had clients go through this process where they reach out to someone they worked with a year, 2 years ago. And that was like their perfect person that they wish they could clone and work with over and over again. And because they had like such a great connection and they're reaching out to them and they're like, Gabby, I've been looking for more Gabbies. I can't find them. I need your help to find more of the Gabbies in the world. Can I ask you a few questions? It is insanely flattering to be told something like that. You know, like, you're the model. I'm trying to build around you. And it's like, okay.
Right.
And then, so you can do this, you know, if it's someone you worked with a year ago, you can do this in an offboarding. You can do this throughout, you know, if you have someone that just booked recently, you know, you can ask them questions about like, why did you decide to work with me? Like, obviously you're going to have to wait to ask them questions about, you know, what their experience was like. But I tend to go at this as, okay, this is just the period of time where I'm going and I'm doing like the kind of customer research into my people, regardless of where they are in the process. You could absolutely build it in, but typically it's like, okay, no, I need to know where people are at right now. Mm-hmm. And whether someone has just booked or whether I worked with them a year ago, what I ask them is going to be slightly different, but it's all going to be valuable.
Yeah, that's a really helpful step. And I think we often forget to go back and talk to those clients, even like in a review. I feel like sometimes when people leave a review, there's things that I have seen that have been repetitive amongst those reviews that I'm like, oh, that's such a good thing to pull and put into my marketing, because it's stuff that I might have not even realized that they loved about working with me.
And trying to think about what they might be searching, especially now with AI. We've had a few conversations about that. It's like they're getting very specific with what they're looking for in a vendor. And to your point earlier, Kari, they're probably not putting in planner that will help me alleviate stress.
It's like everyone in the world shows up.
Right. It's like painkiller that relieves pain. It's like, yeah.
That's a great example, Heidi. That is literally what we're saying.
I like need to go to my website today and remove anything that's stress relief.
Kari needs to leave the call immediately. She
Yeah,
has
I'll be
to
back.
do it.
So Heidi, okay, let's say, cloning your best clients are, sometimes those people are also the most expensive to acquire. It can be, they're time consuming sometimes. And sometimes I think planners are like, I feel like I didn't make enough money working with that client. How do you help people reckon with that and like continue to clone their best clients, but be in a good spot for acquiring those or making, I guess, a good amount of money off of, working with that client and the time that you're putting into it?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I would ask there is, are they actually your best clients? Or are they your most expensive clients? Mm. Are they actually who you want to be working with? And if they are, great. Then we can make some changes to things like, okay, maybe your pricing needs to adjust. Maybe your systems need to adjust so that you're spending fewer hours and then you're making yourself more profitable. There are different like levers you can pull there. But I think the first kind of filtering question is, are we sure these are the people that you want to clone and work with over and over again? Or are they the people that had like the glamorous event that you like to show off and that kind of feeds your ego? But ultimately, if you had 20 of them, you wouldn't be happy. So I think part of it is like that initial self-reflection of, let's make sure these are the people you want to clone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think sometimes we get in that trap of like, oh, I'll just undercut my pricing to get this client, and then we regret it in the end.
Yeah, and
like
to your point about, cost of acquiring, that becomes a lot easier when your marketing actually speaks directly to the person you're trying to attract, because your organic marketing becomes so much more powerful and people see you and seek you out. So your actual cost of marketing generally goes down as a result of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, like to your point, the more niche you are, the more you're known for a very specific thing, the people that want that thing start to talk. And that small circle will say, okay, I saw this one, even on, let's say TikTok, I saw this one bride who was mentioning that her planner did really adventurous weddings. I need to know who that is, because that's exactly what we're qualifying ourselves as. So they will search far beyond Google to find the right people, which is really great. And we don't want to be hard to find, but I think it's like word of mouth and this kind of very specific terms and stuff is helpful to being found. And the other thing I was going to ask is, I guess in order to get here, we need to rewind and say, okay, what if I'm going to clone my best clients? Like you said, I need to figure out who my best clients are and exactly describing them in a way that we can picture, we can find them in our inquiry forms pretty quickly. And what would you say are maybe a few questions that you would ask, that as a planner could ask themselves in order to say, okay, does my ideal client, where do they work? What type of fun things do they do on weekends? Like, what are some questions that could help us identify who our ideal clients are?
I like to move as far away from like the traditional ideal client exercise as possible, because it puts people into like demographic boxes that are helpful in the broader scheme of like market research, but in an individual small business, it's not helpful because it doesn't tell you what you're actually supposed to do with that information. Like, okay, I know their age range. Great. Now what? You know? So I like to think, and I like to really push my clients to be able to describe their ideal client as a human being. Like if one of you were inviting your favorite client out to join the three of us for drinks, what would you tell us? What would you say about them? Who are they as an actual human? You know, you're going to get into things like, oh my God, you know, like she's such an outdoorsy girl. I know you're super outdoorsy. You guys are going to be talking about like all your favorite camping spots and, you know, things like that, because we glaze over that, but our personalities are really central in this, because at the end of the day, marketing is psychology. Our values drive our purchasing decisions. So if you can really hone into like, who is this person as a person, it becomes so much easier to talk to them in their language.
This is a thread, Kari. We've heard this now from two people, that we have to show our personalities more, because that's literally like, right? How we're not just wedding planners. Like, how do people remember us? They remember me because I have a homestead and animals, and you know, like that stuff we have to show more.
Yeah, I definitely think that has been the thing that has like sold my like best clients, because we just connected on a personal level. And I would say a lot of those people, like you talking about, like, how would you describe it? I'm like, those people are like people I would be friends with in real life, you know? And some of them we've like kept in touch, but I'm like, that would be someone who I'd bring into my friend circle and be like besties with, you know? And granted, I know that's not everybody, but I think those really ideal clients, I'm like, you would be a friend of mine.
Yeah, and you would never be like, oh my God, you guys are going to love her. She's between 25 and 35. She lives within 50 miles of my zip code. Her wedding budget is this. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like if you know your people, for example, like the outdoorsy example, if they're super outdoorsy, if they value sustainability, like, okay, we need to weave that in. We need to make sure we're talking about that and we're positioning you. I do have a planner that I worked with, and she very much positions herself as this sustainable wedding planner who is able to create these awesome events, oftentimes outdoors, who, you know, for people who they want something different, but it all comes to that same root of like, I want to run away to the woods, get married, you know, like it all comes down to that personal, you know, that's what that person would want to do. So that's what we need to speak to.
Kari, we need to have that person on the podcast, because I really think something about sustainable weddings is a bit of a mystery, because it almost feels like everyone wants to do it, but in reality, when it comes to the decision making on the prices that sustainability comes with, a lot of clients are like, okay, I guess we'll just do plastic cups.
Yeah.
You know, so for real, I think this could be a really interesting topic.
Heidi, I was going to ask how I think people are still, at least this is how I see it, I think people are still stuck in this mindset of like, how do I share enough about me on social media or on my website, but it doesn't feel like I'm oversharing or I'm getting too personal that it's like turning people off? What would you suggest to people on like how to find that balance of sharing your personality and, you know, some of your personal life? Like Gabby said, everyone knows she's a planner that lives on a homestead and has like a million animals, but it's like, you know, I think you found a line of like how to share, what to share, but I think a lot of people feel stuck in that, like, what's too much? Am I turning away people?
I think understanding that personality connection really helps with this, because like in Gabby's case, she knows that her people are going to be into that. They're going to find that interesting. They're going to be curious about that. That's going to be a point of connection. And it's not to say you have to share everything about yourself, everything about your personality. But if you can pull certain things like that in that are like, oh, yeah, here is how I show that I value this thing that I know that you value in, a truthful way. You don't want to be disingenuous about it, of course. I think that is incredibly helpful, and we don't have to make it. I think we really struggle when we make it about ourselves. I think that is a really hard point. But if you can make it more about them, and you can make it more about, okay, I'm showing them behind the scenes of how we're putting this, South Asian wedding together. And as part of that, it's you kind of talking off the cuff. That counts. Like, that's helpful. They're getting to know you. They're getting to trust you through that. It doesn't have to be like, here's a list of like all these things I like and my interests. And like, you can choose to weave certain things in. There are going to be a lot of things you want to leave out. But you want to make sure that it is a point of connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, it could be anything. Like, I was trying to think, I just connected with a vendor. So, which still, I like connecting. You can get referrals from vendors all the time. Yeah. But I just, every so often when I'm reading a new book on my Kindle, I take a photo of the cover and I just say currently reading. And the amount of DMs I get, like 5.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, guys. Like, in today's world, that's a lot. But truly, of people being like, oh my God, I read that. It's so good. The next thing you have to read is this, blah, blah, blah. And so these are people that have probably, we've never messaged, or we very rarely have messaged, but they've been watching my stories and they're waiting for the opportunity to connect, and this was it for them. And it was just so interesting and a good reminder. And I also think too to myself, what stories am I responding to with other vendors? There's a planner who will when she's not working, her and her husband go to these little cocktail bars and they try new things and they post about it. And it's like so fun and engaging. She's in Nashville. So for me, it's like, ooh, mental note that I want to go try that later. So just like, it could literally be anything. But it's so fun to see people not working or not doing wedding related things, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think, to your point, it can be trivial stuff. Like, I've built entire business relationships off of someone posting something about their dog and me commenting on it and it going from there. Like, it can be these small things that just humanize you.
Yeah. Okay, Heidi, a quick little pivot here. So I know that you are an advocate for the anti-hustle message, which we love. I think, Kari, I'll speak for myself perhaps, but I feel like we're in agreement here that we believe there is a time and place to hustle. Like, there's a season in life in your 20s when you have no commitments, that if you need to start your business and get the things rolling, then you got to hit the ground running and do the work, right? And sometimes that will be long days and all that. But there comes a time where that work-life balance is very, very important. And when we start to implement things like automation, AI, all this kind of stuff. But speaking to our planners out there who are selling more of a high-touch service, and granted, this could really be for any type of planner that really believes in that personalized approach, more hands-on, more attentive in that way. Do you feel like there is a limit to systematizing or automations or anything like that, where you maybe lose that touch a little bit?
I think it really depends how you're using it. And I think there's a right and a wrong way to do this. And I just saw something recently. Uber was getting rid of all of their AI spend because they said they haven't seen, a return on investment from it. And I thought it was really funny because I know from personal experience how Uber uses AI, and it's to make their customer support horrible. That's all they do. Their customer support is the worst. If you've ever had a food delivery, if you've ever had a ride that you had to contact them about something, you know it's like the worst. It is a terrible, terrible experience. And they're like, we did more of that and it didn't make us more money. And it's like, yeah, huh, interesting, right? Whereas, like, my coach runs a software company, and her business partner's approach to this has been, we are going to take as much of the minutia behind the scenes and use AI and make it easier to search for things so that it gives our support people more of an opportunity to be high touch, to be like hands-on, to be like, you know what, I see you're struggling with this thing. I'm just going to go in and fix it for you. You know, it'll take me 20 minutes, but it's time I have because it's been freed up. So there's systems that are customer facing, you know, automations that are customer facing, but then there's internal automations and systems. And I think the higher touch you want to be and the more consistent you want to be, the more you need those systems, because they're there to keep you and your team on track, so that even if, you know, the email that gets sent or the thing that gets sent in the mail or whatever it is super personalized, you don't have to rely on your own brain to prompt you to do that thing or to do part of that process for you. So I think it really depends where you're putting the automation and the system in your process. It doesn't have to overtake your client communication. You know, there are things you can do to make that easier and streamline that, of course. But if that's part of the business that you want to keep very much in your hands, okay, what other things can we streamline and systematize? Because I don't believe for a second that there is a 5-star hotel on this planet that doesn't have intense internal systems to make sure that that quality of service gets delivered to every single person.
Yeah. I think sometimes my biggest gripe from the planning side with, like, I obviously also have a lot of like automated messages and things like that, but I think I've seen with other vendors is like, I still have those automated messages, but my clients sometimes get frustrated because they're like, I already answered all those questions, or we already sent her the timeline. Like, why is she asking for it again? And then I feel like I'm like, well, it's just an automated message. I'll follow up with them. And I think it's great to have those systems in place, but I feel like you also have to be diligent about being repetitive, because then I think that is more frustrating for the client. So it's like, are you evaluating those systems regularly to know how it's actually working in your business?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, you know, a step in that system can be as simple as, okay, this is the typical message we send at this point. I need to go in, spend 5 minutes double checking, is this accurate, or are there changes that need to be made? And then it can go. You know, something as small as that. But you need that system for yourself. You know, you need that.
It's like a system within a system.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if there is a role that exists, probably, or that's going to be more popular, where there's a person in the company, even a small team like ours, that is like an AI manager, you know, where their role is to just make sure the systems are flowing and there's no, you know, snafus with sending, like you said, something because they originally selected this package and then they upgraded to this next package, and then that first system was going, you know, like, when I really think about it, I get very overwhelmed with all of the possibilities of systems I can create, because I have to manage them at the end. I have to first create them, and then if something goes wrong, I'm like, oh my God, wait, hold the presses. I've got to like redo this system because this client changed location. And I would love to delegate that, but who has the time? And then you have to train the person to do, anyway, you know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could definitely be like an operations person, that is
Yeah,
running
I
that
guess
sort
that's
of
right.
thing.
And operations
Yeah.
gets in that.
So Heidi, I think a big thing we've been seeing right now is sort of and hearing is like this loss of the middle market, right? And a lot of people are trying to go to the luxury market, right? Like nobody really wants to jump down to the budget friendly. So I think there's like a huge uptick in planners trying to move up market as a solution to being sustainable, you know, staying in business, making more money. And I guess I'm curious, is it actually a viable strategy for most planners, or is it kind of a shiny object of the moment type of thing? What is your take on that?
And also, do you believe the middle market is disappearing or
Oh,
no?
that's a good question.
No,
Ooh,
I don't.
give us the tea.
I believe the middle market is getting more choosy, and the middle market has more options than anybody. So they are getting specific, like you said, with people you've had on, like getting really specific about their searches, getting really specific about their, you know, who they're looking to and the problems they want solved. They're not hiring someone that is presenting themselves as much as a generalist. And I think it's a case of the industry is maturing and not that the middle market is disappearing. And what I mean by that is like there was a time when the place you went to go get anything baked was like your town bakery. They sold everything. In my neighborhood right now, I can walk to a bagel shop. I can walk to 2 donut shops. One that's like super creative and like bonkers flavors. One that's like very traditional. I can walk to a French bakery. I can walk to a sandwich place that like makes their own bread. That is a more mature market. They've split into these different like subgroups and specializations. And I think that's really what we're seeing in the wedding industry is like you can't just be a bakery. Like you can't just be a wedding planner. You have to be something that someone truly wants that gets them excited. And oh my God, this whole luxury thing. I'm really, really glad you asked about this because the more I think about it, I think the entire concept is fundamentally flawed. And I think it applies employee thinking to a business because this is not a normal thing for a business to do. I think it's like you have the employee thinking of like, okay, I get in at this and then I move up and then I make more. And it's like, okay, let's imagine you made
I
handbags.
see you're using that as the company is thinking, I get in at the low
Yeah.
budget and I move to middle market, then I move up.
Yeah.
But an employee, it makes sense because they get raises as they continue to work. But a
Right.
business doesn't change their market.
But give me one business that has done that,
Fair,
you know, successfully. Usually, if they're going to do that, they create a sub brand. They create something else. So, like, if you were making handbags and you were like, okay, cool, I'm going to really go after Target. I'm going to sell them in Target. And then you were like, and then in 5 years, I'm going to be the next Hermes. Those are such fundamentally different businesses. They have absolutely nothing in common. Like
Such a
the
good
customer is different. The supply chain is different. The way it's sold is different. Like the volume is different. And I think people don't understand, like, it's not just a matter of you graduate into this. And I think a lot of people see it that way. And that's why they want to do it, is because they feel like, I earn this. I should be able to do this by now. But it's a fundamentally different business. And it's not to say like it's good or it's bad, but like luxury clients also demand more time and more from every part of your business. So the business that exists that serves the lower end of the market, the middle market, has to be completely transformed to provide a luxury experience. And this is why when you look at other businesses, especially in hospitality, if you look at like hotel groups, there are so many different sub brands because you can't just be like, you know, we're Hyatt, we do everything. Like, no, there are so many little subdivisions of like, you want this experience, you go to this version of the brand that we also own. It's under our umbrella, but we also own, you know, Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express. And they're 4 different people. So I think it's this really weird meshing of like, I get in my entry level job and I move up and I make more and I become more prestigious. And it's like, yeah, that's just not a thing in business.
This is such a good take, and I feel like I feel like most people are kind of just like in the same boat of like, it's gone, like we don't know what to do. But I also think Gabby and I have talked about this in the past, like to be high-end luxury, I think as small business owners, we also have to like transform how we think and what we've experienced, right? Like I don't come from that. I feel like there can be money hangups, right? So if you don't really understand how people in the luxury market spend their money, or you don't understand like caviar, you know what I mean? Like different aspects of that.
You don't understand caviar.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm like, are there different kinds? Like, I don't know.
Fair, I don't know.
And like, if I can't even speak to that, how is my business going to serve those clients if I'm having to learn essentially a whole new world and a different class of people? You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we think it's just easy to like change our branding and serve those people. But if you don't understand those people and how they think, I think it's really hard to move into that space.
Yeah, and I think we treat it as like, this should be the next natural evolution. I should get to this point. And I think a lot of people should themselves around this. Like, there's something wrong with the fact that I serve a more affordable client. And like, no. If those are the people you like working with, build your business around them. Like, that's wonderful. But there have been so many people that I've known that have done luxury work, like high-end luxury work, and they're like, never again. Like the demands are not what I want to be doing. And I think people don't really think about that. They just think about like, that's the cool kids club, you know, that's what all the cool kids are doing. And I should be able to do that because I've been in business for this long and I have this much experience. And it's like, it's the employee mentality. It's like, well, I should be in senior management because I've been here for 15 years, 20 years. And it's like, that's just not how a business works. You build a business around a person, a market, and a problem that you want to solve. And if you want to do something different, and I know people who have done this, I've worked with people who've done this, you create a sub-brand. Like I know a dress designer who she is really big into like dyeing dresses and super colorful different things. But then she has a separate brand that is like for your traditional Southern bride. And they are completely separate. Because yes, the traditional Southern bride is the more luxury and it commands more money per dress, but it also requires a lot more work from her. And those people don't want to buy from the colorful brand. The colorful brand people don't want to buy from the like old money Southern plantation wedding, you know, kind of people. So you have to, if you want to do something like that, I think it needs to be separate.
Yeah.
So, okay, what do you tell people, like, okay, a new planner's coming on the market. They have very little experience other than assisting other planners and maybe doing some courses, let's say. So let's say they were brought up in a wealthy environment. They know they can talk the talk, right? How does that person get into the wedding industry? Do they start with a brand that is their trial brand where they work in that for a few years? They do everything they can get their hands on and eventually launch a second brand? Or can they go straight into it? My fear with going straight into it is that their level of experience does not match the budget of what those clients need. So how would you talk to someone like that?
Yeah, for someone like that, I mean, you absolutely could just start, get some experience, see what you like, get a feel for it. But at the end of the day, you're going to kind of have to scrap that brand if you want to move up. So you have to realize you're creating business one so you can create business two, which is an option. Absolutely. Another option would be to maybe not to go directly into it, but to try to work more closely with people that are in those circles, working, could be assisting on those weddings. It could be assisting at venues that cater to those weddings to get more exposure to it. I think that's definitely something that could help, and definitely something I see photographers do really well in getting their foot into, like, not just the door, but the right door that they want to be following into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. And also to remember for anyone listening, if they are specializing in the budget-friendly weddings, there is still a lot of money to be made. And it's not your cost per event service will be lower, but you have the ability to build in quantity, and you have the ability to build a team that will then support your business and grow that way, as opposed to growing in dollar value per event, I would say.
Yeah, it's just a different way to slice it. Do you want to do more volume? Do you want to do higher cost per event? There's a million different ways to do it, but those are really like the two sides.
Yeah.
So Heidi, as we kind of wrap up, a final few questions for you, but since you run, this summit throughout the year, you talk to wedding pros every single day, and you hear a lot of, I'm sure, the gripes of like what they're going through because you're helping them solve problems. But what are planners telling you is sort of their biggest problem right now versus what you actually think their problems are?
So the visibility one is definitely a thing that I've noticed, but also I think there is this, and it's very understandable, there is this idea that the way you get better results is by doing more. And that's often not the case. And it's very counterintuitive because it goes against everything we've learned. Like, what I mean by that is, if you are not currently booking the weddings that you want to book, the solution is to go get on 3 new platforms and market harder and like try to hustle your way into this, when really the problem, again, it's not visibility. It's probably that you're blending in. It's probably that there's no clear message. You're not targeting a specific person. And instead of adding 10, 15 hours of work onto your week every week, you could just solve that problem. And that feels wrong because, like, I'm not hard working my way out of it. And that's the way we feel like we have to get out of things. But more often than not, it is a smallish shift that needs to happen in positioning so that they're not blending in, so that they're really like the clear choice for their ideal client. And that work is, I won't say it's easier because it requires introspection, and sometimes it's easier just to post stuff on social media, but it will require less time than joining 3 new platforms. Like, I'm going to get super active on TikTok, and I'm going to start a Threads account. I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and that is going to solve all my problems.
Heidi, we would never do such a strategy. We are literally, you're talking to us directly right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
It makes sense because, like, how have we gotten out of jams in our life? Like, you hustle.
Yeah.
I think that's like such a mindset, especially I know I have it where I feel like if the needle isn't moving, I'm like, it's almost this thought of like just staying busy throughout the week and like doing this busy work, that I think is going to push it forward.
Oh, wait, it skipped to Kari.
Oh, sorry, that froze.
Oh,
yeah.
Now it's muted. Okay, wait. Okay,
Can you hear
reset. Me? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think that is such a mindset that I am also in, of like, if I just think like, if the needle isn't moving in my business, I just need to stay busy or like add more work onto my week. And then I'm like, well, why isn't that working? I was so busy all week. And I think we just get into that mindset of like, if I'm consistently staying busy and trying to hustle, so to speak, then the needle should move. But I feel like that's such a good point of like, you could do less work. It's just doing the right work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I get that in my own mind. Like sometimes I'll do something and it's like, okay, the thing I really needed to address took me less than an hour and it feels wrong. It feels like cheating. It feels like I should have had to put more into that. But the thing that moved the needle took me 20 minutes. And so that's the thing I need to be doing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is so fascinating. I feel like you're talking literally directly to us this whole time, and it was a hard message that we needed to hear. But Heidi, any final parting words with our wedding pros that you could give them? Maybe some words of wisdom on how they can start thinking about cloning their best client. And also, please tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so the first thing I really like people to do is start thinking of individual people that you've worked with, that you wish you could clone and work with over and over again, because that moves you outside of the mindset of trying to group people together. And when we start with a group of people, it just kind of gets fuzzy, and we need to, you may have heard like the phrase in marketing, like speak to one person. This is the idea behind that. Like, okay, I am really trying to get more Gabbies in my business. So I am really going to think about who is Gabby as a person. Then we can go into asking questions, but we have to get out of this mentality of, well, they're brides. And it's like, that's a role that you play for a day in your life. It doesn't say anything about what you care about. It doesn't even say anything about why you're getting married, quite honestly.
True.
So if we can move away from this idea of lumping people together and start to focus on like, who are the individual people that you wish you could work with over and over again, and really start thinking about them. Who are they? How would you describe them? You know, like I said, if we were going out for drinks, what would you tell me about that person? And that's going to bring you into the right mindset of then being able to go ask them some questions, to really be able to listen and pull out the things that they're giving you and just allow that to be your marketing. That's, I think, my favorite thing about Clone Your Best Clients is it is the closest thing to like magic words you can have in your marketing. It is the idea that your best marketing, your ticket to attracting more of the right people, is right there in your best clients' heads. You just have to pull it out. And that's exactly what the book is about, is that exact process of how do we go about doing that, so then you can make your marketing more of a mirror for them. So when they come to your website, when they come across your Instagram, they see themselves. They see exactly what they're looking for, and they get really excited, and you clearly stand out. So that is really the entire idea behind the book. I have seen this process make such a huge difference in so many, like thousands of businesses, because we stick with this very stiff idea of an ideal client that's like demographic based, but that doesn't tell us what to do in our marketing. Whereas you can get your people to literally tell you how to find more of them. And that is way easier than just trying to guess.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, it's $9 only for the ebook. Kari and I will be buying a copy,
Yes.
clearly, because it needs to be read. And then we will put our link in the show notes. So for anybody watching this at any point of time, this will be available to access. But wow, Heidi, this was awesome. I am so excited to read the book. I'm so excited to make changes in the business that we will assume that everyone knows that we will help them relieve stress and that we'll come up with other words.
Yes. Heidi, what is the best way for people to find you online and other ways they can work with you?
Yeah, so you can find me over at evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. That's where you will find everything, how you can work with me in the Wedding Business Collective over there. I have a free training over there that you can grab if you're interested. I have a podcast myself. So you can find everything over there. And then if you want to just reach out directly, best place to do that, I'm a millennial, is Instagram. So I am Evolve Your Wedding Business over on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. I feel like this was such a refreshing take on this topic for our listeners and clearly for Gabby and I. So
Always.
We appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise with us. And Jabbers, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.